And now we have Anthony Russell, who is tarot, I would say one of the world's best tarot readers. I mean, I'm not gonna. He's written a book on the tarot. He's taught courses in the tarot. Anthony, you've been reading tarot since when? Since you were a
Uh,
kid. I
this coming
mean,
February, it'll be 55 years. I
5 years,
started when
yeah.
I was
And
16 in 1968, and I will be
yeah,
71 in May. And
wow.
I put myself through college reading tarot and sitting as a medium. And if I had known I'd be doing it at this age, I would have skipped college and kept all the tuition money. because, but I will say that I had some wonderful careers
Yeah.
in music and teaching and everything else. But this has been my vibe. Thank you for inviting me on. And hi, everybody. I
Absolutely.
see a couple of familiar faces, so you know exactly what to
Okay.
expect, the rest of
I should
you.
also mention, sorry to interrupt, but you're also the owner of the Zodiac Lounge. You can see
Yes,
the, and that
the
was a very
famous
popular,
metaphysical store and speakeasy
right?
after hours. That was a blast.
Exactly.
Actually, Corinne C. Deet has been there a few times when it was open, so she can attest to how nuts it was. I'm going to be
Yeah.
brief. I
So,
think it's a New York thing, economy of words. Um, and I'm not going to give any predictions. I mean, we can look at conventional wisdom and the patterns of what we've been experiencing over the past 8 years to see where things are going. And we can also refer to the past. Recently, there was a series on HBO, and I don't have HBO, but because I refuse to spend a dime on meaningless things, and I would be glued to the TV if I did spend all that. But it was on some regular channel, and it was about the Gilded Age, which I've always been fascinated by. I love the architecture, the fashion, the design, everything. And it occurred to me that we're actually repeating something, because in the Gilded Age, which was the end of the 19th century, there were some people who had amassed, I'll call it fuck you money, and they made some amazing things happen. It was the Industrial Revolution. We had railroads that connected everybody. And of course, our elected officials hated the fact that they had so much power. So they demonized them. And then the beginning of the 20th century was called the American century, because the American people, the Rockefellers, all those people that were so powerful during the Gilded Age had done so much to advance technology. I'm not saying they were angels. Everybody has a good side and a bad side. But it's very interesting how politics completely does what they can to destroy anyone who comes in from the outside. And then we had our first progressive movement, and it brought us a lot of the things that we're witnessing now. Um, the Depression, um, Prohibition, which they better not try, yellow journalism. There was, everybody was a communist. So I'm seeing a lot of things repeat themselves, and it kind of pisses me off because, like, come on, man, do something new. What I'm seeing happening now, sorry, if I had to predict what we can expect, if I go by our media that drones on and on and on with the same messaging that we assimilate, we're in for a terrible time. But um, Mitchell brought up some very important things, and we were talking about neuroscience, neuroplasticity, things like that. Um, there's ways to not participate in this. It may have gone so far because it has been so repetitive, and I've watched people that are very bright do the stupidest things, and relationships with family members, with friends, people who don't think exactly like they think, and the way they think is the way they're told they should think. So now we're getting back into being free spirits. We're all part of a spiritual tradition because we chose to be free, to get out of the mainstream and have that freedom to think and say and feel whatever we like. Um, I have never been a fan of conformity. Ask anyone in my family. And I don't think we need to be. What I'm seeing right now is a dissolution of personal identity. I had to go to the ER a couple of weeks ago. Fortunately, it wasn't serious, but I wouldn't have gone to the ER if I didn't think I was ready to die. And I was in enormous pain. And there was this 5-minute exchange about my gender. What is your gender? It's like pain. My gender is pain. I'm in pain. Get me some help here. And well, I have to put this, we have to fill this out. I was like, well, I definitely have a dick. So you pick, and I'll just roll with that for the rest of my life. And she was just outraged. And I'm thinking, what have we become? I mean, you don't go to an ER unless you don't have time to wait for your doctor. You're going to go to an emergency room. Fortunately, as I said, it turned out to be something pretty serious, but not as bad as I thought it was. But all of that time going over personal pronouns and gender, and I get it. There are people who need to subscribe to that sort of thinking, but it doesn't mean that everybody must. So what I'm seeing right now is the same messaging. I cannot watch the news. What I've done now is I do doom trolling for 2 hours first thing in the morning. So I see what's going on. And then that's it. And then the next morning, they've had all day to spin it. So I find out what their spin is. And then the new doom trolls start again. And it's a way of keeping my finger on the pulse of what's going on. But if you think about neuroplasticity, okay, I'll try to explain it as quickly as I can. Every time you have a thought, there's a neuron that synapses over the surface of your brain, and it makes a tiny little groove. The more you repeat that thought, the deeper the groove gets. So you automatically go to the same destination. It's very Pavlovian. In neuroplastics, the way to heal your own brain is to choose a different destination. And then I've seen it on EEGs. I've seen it during my neurons jump and create a new path. I'm sorry about that. Cat stepped on the mouse and muted me, so now it's moved. And the more we repeat that thought, the more automatic that destination becomes. It does not mean going from one extreme to the other. That's just as unhealthy. I've seen this happen with people who are experiencing depression, and they automatically believe that they're going to fail at what they do. But to become what I call morbidly optimistic is just as unhealthy. How about a 50-50 possibility that I can get out of this? That is healthy. And when you repeat that thought, it's like undoing all the damage that is done by data repetition. So our data repetition right now is we're going into a worldwide depression. Everybody who doesn't think the same way needs to be canceled. People that don't subscribe to our government issued talking points are terrorists or white supremacists. Bullshit. I've had enough of this. We can all do something. The power of the spoken word. The ancient Egyptians even said, when you say something aloud, you give it life. So we have to make a conscious commitment to not participate in this, to not be a foot soldier in anyone's army. We're blaming it on politics. We're saying it's our political parties. And if you're part of one, you're great. And if you're part of the other, you're horrible. It happens on both sides. It has nothing to do with our politicians. Even world politicians, world leaders are puppets. You want to know where the power is? Follow the money. WEF. Sorry, didn't mean to say that. Was just coughing. So if we follow the money, we can see that there is a plan. We've all heard about the Great Reset or the New World Order. This is purely an economic thing. It may happen, but to the degree that it affects us is completely up to us. Now, all of my studies in metaphysics over the years, because of my skepticism, I've gone into science. So my mission, my personal mission, is to put psychology back into parapsychology and quantum physics back into metaphysics and normal back into paranormal, for God's sake. And the way that I'm doing it is that I've begun to teach again. I have a great opportunity here in New York, and we're going to be doing everything on Zoom. It's going to be in lifetime. If you miss a class, that recording of the lecture will be in your student account forever. It's at, can I plug the URL, Scott? Is that okay? I bored you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. It's at Astro West, which is 102 West 79th. It's Astro West Underground. It all has to do with esoteric knowledge. I have other experts that will also be teaching with me. The site is awunderground.com. I just put it in chat. Go there and register, because then you will get our emails for the event. We're going to be having paid events, free events, classes, series, workshops. If something isn't my jam, it doesn't mean you're not going to learn about it. I will find another expert who will teach it to you in a way that is the best way for you to learn it. For example, angels. I believe in them. I've seen them. They're just not my jam. But I do have somebody who is an expert in that field who is willing to come in. And luckily for me, over all these years that I've been reading, I have a global clientele. I know people all over the world who are qualified and willing to teach. And that is bringing us together, because we have been divided. The old divide and conquer thing is happening. And we're letting it happen, and we're buying into it. And some of us are scared into silence, and others of us have just become out and out bullies because we believe that we're on the side of the right, whether it's politically right or left, it doesn't matter. We have to approach people, we have to approach each other with compassion, with patience, and with kindness. So I also am getting caught up in this. I was getting caught up in this until about 2 months ago, when I had had enough. And, you know, this is a spiritual community. We have many different traditions that are represented here. I was initiated into several of them. My very first one was in 1968. It was a Wiccan community, but it was also a Hellenic tradition. I had an amazing teacher. And I like all the hocus pocus. I like the props. I like all that stuff. And when we make a commitment, when we make a true commitment where we feel it from the tips of our toes coming through our entire body and out of our mouth, once we make that public declaration, it comes to life, especially if it is witnessed. And there are mechanics to it. There are ways to do it. This is why I'm teaching. It starts out with breath work. As you inhale in, what you're doing is you're filling yourself up and you're thinking about all the things you want to commit to. And then as you exhale, you feel the chair that you're in, and you just empty your mind and only focus on that connection. And then you speak aloud and you make a commitment. And sometimes I need to dress up like the Pope and say the Mass in order to do this, depending on how vulnerable I feel. Other times I can do it on the crosstown bus. But it's such an easy thing to do. And if each of us would just really search our souls and deprogram ourselves from what we're being fed and what we're being force fed, actually, and what we're being forced to believe, and participating in our world where half of us, well, all of us, depending on which circle you're in, are afraid to speak the objective truth, okay? We're conditioned now to believe in subjective truth. I believe I'm this, so therefore that is the truth. It is my truth. No, I don't have my truth. There is the truth. I can love it or hate it, but it is still the truth. And we have to commit to that. So the best way to do it, take a deep breath, think about what you're doing, get as biblical and shit as you might want to, whatever you have to do to work up the energy to really put this out there, and say it out loud and try to say it in front of a witness. If you like, I can give you an example right now. I mean, I'm ready. It's like, I am definitely going to do this, and I hope it resonates with some of you, and I'm going to get crazy with it. I'm going to call all my ancestors and gods and goddesses and orishas and loas and my guides and all my ride or die hoes that have kept me on the straight and narrow my whole life, all the spiritual entities that have kept me protected and kept me true to myself. I summon and stir you up, and I ask you to witness these words that I'm about to utter, and to keep me on this path. You know, Eugene, my high school friend who burnt down the gym because he put a lit cigarette under a dried mop in the janitor's closet, put the feet to my fire. My maternal grandmother, if you see me veering, give me a good hard slap and send me back to the center of the road. I need your help, and I need your help. You're all witnessing me, okay? So now, tonight, this night, I make this pledge that I will scorch and salt the earth in the garden in which I grow my fucks to give, and behold, it shall become barren until the end of days, which means that I will not have a single fuck to give about any of this divisive crap that they are trying to load on us and turn against each other. And instead, I will approach my fellow man with an open heart, an open mind, compassion, patience, kindness. We need to bond together, because the one thing we do know about our warring factions right now that are trying to manipulate us is that they never clean up their own mess. So we're going to have to come together and glue the pieces back together when they're finished with their war at the end of this year. And in order to do that, we might as well come together now, so we're ready with our Gorilla Glue to put it back together. I will this, I command this, so be it. So mote it be, i.e. bobo, booyah, whatever I have to say to make my point, I've done it, and I expect to be held to it. It's as simple as that. It's very easy to do. Make the commitment in your heart, say it out loud, disempower the people, the strength of the movement that's been dividing us, and completely put yourself in a place of resolution that you will not participate and instead spread solidarity. It's the only thing we can do. Because if you do believe that history is leading us in the wrong direction, we have nothing we can do about it. We can only go where history leads us. But once we get there, we do have the capacity to mitigate the toxin. So that's the end of my diatribe. I hope I wasn't too crazy. But
Oh, yeah, thank you very much, Anthony. That was great. And we look forward to seeing your courses.
Oh yeah, no, they're going to be a lot of
Master
fun.
West Underground.
They're going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be many of them. And I hope to see some of you there. And yeah, I know it's a shameless plug, but it's New Year, and I've just made a commitment. I
Great.
see a
Well, Happy New
hand.
Year.
Thank you.